Proverbs 4:20-27. My son, pay attention to my words. Open your ears to what I say. Do not let them escape from your sight. Keep them within your heart, because they are life to those who find them, and healing for the entire body. With all diligence, guard your heart, because the source of life comes from it. Turn yourself away from perverse speech, and keep corrupt lips far away from you. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Let your gaze be directly in front of you. Make a level pathway for your feet, and all your ways will be secure. Do not bend to the left, or right, or to the left. Turn your feet away from evil. If you read this section slowly, you notice a theme is repeated multiple times, and that's the parts of the body. Solomon here is focusing on eyes and feet and heart and whole body, and there are lots of motions that the body does, bending, for example, or looking in different directions. There's a very corporeal theology here that basically means that it's about the body. And I think the first thing for us to notice here is that Solomon sees a direct line between wisdom and the function of your body. And in fact, the Proverbs are maybe better than any other book in the Bible in making this obvious distinction, I think, if we're actually willing to just look at the way things are, that you are your body. There's an ancient heresy that has reared its ugly head against, again, now in North America, called Gnosticism, which essentially separates you from your body. It says the real you is the inside, is the mind, is the soul, and the body is just this extra tent, this thing you live in. And therefore you can do whatever you want with your body, change your body, and it won't actually impact who you are. Now, we may see like negative manifestations of this in the world as we look out, but it also infects the Christian church and the Christian. For example, if you think that you can worship God without being with other Christians, well, then you're a Gnostic, right? Gnostics believe it doesn't matter where your body is, it matters where your soul is. Christians believe that it actually does matter where your body is. It actually does matter what your body is doing. And so, as Solomon shows us here, part of being wise is realizing that your body and what it does and where it is and what it thinks and what it looks at and what it says and what it hears are all parts of what it means to be wise. Now, specifically, there are two things he notes as things that make you wise, or maybe antithetically things that will make you unwise. They are perverse speech and where you look. So he says, you want to keep corrupt talk, lying lips, perverse speech away from yourself. In other words, you have to be very cautious about what you say. The rest of the Bible attests to this. Your words are the most powerful thing that you have. We tend to think that violence is done physically, but violence is often more done with words than with fists. And in the same way, healing is done more fully, more completely with words than with any sort of medicine. So be careful about what you say. And that discernment, that willingness to evaluate what I say before I say it, is actually wisdom in and of itself. We just read a proverb in my house that we'll get to eventually in this series that just reminds us that actually being discerning, like taking the time to slow down and think about what you're doing before you do it, that is wisdom. You may not necessarily come to an outcome that would be the absolute wisest thing you could have done, but the fact that you thought about it made you wiser than you would have been otherwise. The second thing Solomon says then is to keep your eyes on the path. And specifically what he says here is he says, let your eyes look straight ahead and let your gaze be directly in front of you. We ought to think of two maybe manifestations of this. First, that one of the things the Proverbs is going to remind us of is that what you can control is what is right in front of you today. The past is a story that you tell yourself. You don't remember everything about the past. You just remember the things that allow you to tell yourself a story about what the past was. The future is a story too. You don't know what's going to happen. You're just putting together ideas of what could happen based on the evidence that you have, but you can't predict it. There are so many things outside of your control that will affect your future. And so therefore, to think about yourself in terms of your past or your future is a foolish endeavor. What is wise is to look directly in front of you and say, what can I do today? Today is real. Tomorrow is a story. Yesterday is a story. Today is real. And my real body lives in this real moment with my real resources and the real neighbors that are around me that God has called me to love, the vocations that I've been given. That's wisdom. And as we do that, we ought to look straight forward. Why do you look straight forward? Because you're going somewhere, and you have an intentional place that you're trying to get to. And while you may not necessarily get there, the practice of saying, here is the type of person that I want to be, and here are the micro decisions on a daily basis that I need to make in order to get to that point, that is wisdom. And so if you can balance these ideas of seeing yourself as the wise person that God wants you to be in the future and making the decisions today that impact not only your wisdom in the future, but the people around you in this present moment, you will be wise. Use your body, the gift that God has given you, the real you, to do the things that God has created only you to do in this moment in the world's history. That's how to grow up.